What's going on, everybody? It's Tyvis Powell and Dustin Fox with another episode of the Ultimate Buckeye. What's going on, Dustin? Another episode, man. Let's get right. Listen, I got to talk to you about something. No, I need your something now. I woke up this morning, and as I worked out, obviously, as I worked out, I realized I think I'm institutionalized, not like in a jail sense, but like football wise, because I promise you, when I was playing, I said, when I'm done playing football, I promise you, I ain't touching another weight. And now I can't wake up every morning and not think about lifting weights because I'm so used to doing it. And I don't know if I could ever break this cycle.
Oh, you can. Again, so you're what, about 31, 32?
30.
Okay, 30. All right. So I'm 41 going on 42 this year.
You still lifting?
No. I'm telling you, by the time you're 30, by the time you're like 36, 37, you will maybe still be lifting some weights, but you will not be putting like 225 on the bar ever again. Trust me.
Oh, Dustin, I had 255 on there today.
It's because you have a death wish, my friend, and you are a masochist who just wants to injure themselves in the weight room and not be able to come on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
That's not true. The problem is because I have two daughters, and it's like when they get older, I gotta have that physical appearance where guys are gonna look at me and be like, "Oh shoot, don't mess with her." So that's what this is
I think. Dude, you could just, bro, look at yourself in the mirror. You could just wake up and never touch a weight the rest of your life, and you're going to be intimidating to your daughter's boyfriends.
I don't know, but I like to have a physical look. Like, ugh. All right, but enough of that.
You already got it.
Let's talk about these Buckeyes, man. The Buckeyes, obviously, they played Western Michigan last week. Woo! It was a dominant performance. They won 56-0. Night game in the shoe, which I'm not a fan of playing MAC teams at night, but that's another story for another day. But obviously, they got it done on the ground. They got it done in the air. Will Howard looked good. Quinshon Judkins, 2 touchdowns. James Peoples, a touchdown. Travion Henderson, 2 touchdowns. So they really showed that rushing attack. And I remember – last week, that was one of our biggest issues. We was talking about, they need to get that run game going. And I thought they showed up in a big way. I mean, and it's not like Western Michigan is some pushover team. This is a team that was up on Wisconsin in the fourth quarter. So to see them go out there and win in the fashion that they did. It was the first time, I would say, under Ryan Day that I saw just completely from first quarter till the game ended, that they were just completely a dominant team. And I think that it builds a lot of confidence in that locker room because they still never had that goose egg win under Jim Knowles, and they finally did that. And it's just so many different people that's contributing to the success of this team. Like, the depth of this team is something that we talked about in the offseason. And, to see it on the offensive line, to have guys coming in, to have linebackers rotating in. Yeah, Denzel Burke gets thrown out the game for targeting, but Jermaine Matthews comes in and this never skips a beat. To me, this team has really come together. And it's only been 1 week from the Akron game where everything looked a little sloppy to last week where they look completely dominant, man. It's hard to go against the Buckeyes right now.
No, it really is. And again, I don't know how much you can take away from this win over Western Michigan. I did say last week that I thought Western had a better team. Not maybe. I think they do have a better team than Akron. Mm-hmm. But listen, this was a woodshed type of game for Ohio State. I mean, from the moment they started the game, defense, they were on them. Western Michigan couldn't really do anything. Mm-hmm. They had the one drive where they missed a field goal that doinked off the upright, and I mean that was about it. I just thought that it was real nice to see. Especially the ground game get going because the running game I thought the previous week was just kind of lacking. And they stuck to it in this game. I mean, 683 yards of offense. They ran for 273. Yeah. I don't know that there's much you can bitch about coming out of this game. heading into this Marshall matchup this weekend, other than
next weekend.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I'm listening to a lot of the national narrative, and it's like, Ohio State's probably not going to get tested for another 3 weeks. I mean, I know they open Big Ten play, coming up here next week, I believe. And then, but it's not a tough matchup.
Well, it's Michigan State, if I remember correctly.
It is Michigan State.
Michigan State got a receiver that's putting up pretty good numbers. I mean, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but he had about an impressive game as Jeremiah Smith did last week. I think he
Marsh. Nick Marsh.
I think he had like 200, maybe he had like 200 yards or something like that, receiving or something like that.
Yeah, on the season he's got 9 for 205 and a tutty.
Okay, that's it. Yeah, okay, yeah, 9 for 205. That's what it is on the season. They compare. I had seen this graphic where they compare both of their stats, and they were kind of close. I think JJ got like 2 more touchdowns than him on the season.
Yeah.
But yards wise and receptions wise, it's pretty close. So obviously, that's going to be a guy that they're going to have to worry about there. But yeah, I mean, they got Marshall not this week because it's a bye week. This week, next week. What are you going to expect out of that? But I think you're right. There's nothing to be picky about in this game. The only thing, if I wanted to be extremely picky, like if I really wanted to be picky, the only thing that was missing was a defensive takeaway. Like that was it. They didn't get no interceptions or anything like that. If I'm being picky. But
yeah, but I mean, they held them 99 yards of total offense.
That's what I'm saying. It's hard to be picky when you only give up 99 total yards of offense. Like, you know how hard that is? That's some video game stuff right there, especially in today's football. So, yeah, it seems like everything is coming together. And, like I said, I wasn't overreacting after the first week because I knew you had a bunch of guys transferring in there and stuff like that, and it was going to take a while for them to gel. And they say the biggest improvement is from week 1 to week 2, and clearly they lived that model by being able to do that. Will Howard, it was nice to see him get involved with his legs. I think he scored with it. I don't think he threw a touchdown, but I think he did run a touchdown in with his legs. And that's been a part that's been missing since Justin Fields has been gone. And, like I said, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but it's just enough that it's extremely effective. And yeah, Western Michigan, I think I heard the coach after the game said, like, they're scarier in person. Like, the Buckeyes are scarier in person. Like, it was
trust me. I
overwhelming.
mean, you hit on this point. I don't know why they had a night game versus Western Michigan, but Western Michigan had no chance the second they arrived at the stadium in a night game. I mean, it's one of the toughest environments to play. I don't know how many night games you had when you were in school, but we had a couple, and those were the loudest, craziest, fan experiences I ever had. So, the Broncos kind of came into a bit of a hornet's nest there, and they experienced exactly what most teams do when they come to the Horseshoe at night, and that is a drubbing by the Buckeyes.
I mean, if you ain't ready to go, if that Buckeye team ain't ready to go in the night game, then you might be at the wrong place, because that atmosphere in Columbus at night is different.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny because it doesn't matter who the opponent is. Like, they're going to show up, they're going to sell out, they're going to be loud. And luckily, when I play, we play like Penn State at night. We played Nebraska at night, Virginia Tech. Oh my gosh, we lost to Virginia Tech at night. But
you were part of that one, huh?
Yeah, I did. I can't believe.
Well, the good news is you did come back and win the national title that year. So
but it's still
nice consolation. Does it still eat at you though? Like that your season wasn't perfect?
Yes, because it's not that. It's the fact that we lost to a team that wasn't good. Like they went on to do nothing for the rest of the season, and the only claim to fame they have is that they beat us. And I look back at it, and I have no answer for you. I don't know how we lost that game. I don't know. Like, offensively, they did that bare front, and we just had no answer for it. And then defensively,
you couldn't stop it, man.
Yeah, they was just gashing us like it was crazy. But we got the ring, but I'm still upset.
Yeah, I mean, at least you're not bitter about it, right?
I'm not as mad at them as I am at Michigan State. Michigan State, I hope they program lose every game that they ever play. The football team, the basketball team, tennis, lacrosse, everybody, the debate team. I hope everybody at Michigan State just continue to lose. That's where I'm at with them. But Virginia Tech, they all right with me. Anyways, moving on. So the Buckeyes are on a bye this week as we continue to, as we mentioned earlier in the show. How do you feel about that? They now that they're moving to 15, 16, 17 games in the season, they're rewarding them with the extra bye. And obviously the Buckeyes are on it. So how do you feel, first of all, about having 2 byes in a season? Because me personally, if they gave us 2 byes, first of all, I am ecstatic by that. Now, the timing of it, I'm upset by, but I'm ecstatic to have 2 byes because, as you know, going to training camp, going straight into the season, playing those physical games, it takes a lot out of the body. Now, granted, it's only been 2 games, but still, your body gets beat up pretty bad in those couple of games. So any chance that you can get rest just for a week off is gold, just to give your body a chance to recover and catch up on some of those injuries. So I love the fact that they got 2 of them. Where are you at with it?
Oh, I love it too, especially where these buys fall for Ohio State. I mean, this one, you probably don't need it now because you just got into the season, but it's not a bad spot to sort of like take a step back, look at the first couple of games and say, what do we do well? What do we need to work on? And then sort of regroup as you enter conference play. I know you got Marshall coming up next week, but after that, I mean, it's on to the Big Ten, and you're on the road against Michigan State. I know you come back against Iowa, but the obviously the game that people are looking forward to is October 12th against Oregon. That game is going to be extremely tough. It's on the road. But then you talk about that bye week. The bye week falls in between the Oregon game and the Nebraska game, which arguably the 2 toughest opponents of the year back to back. Because I mean, look at it right now. Nebraska just off of that huge win over Colorado. They beat them down. I know Oregon's sort of struggled a little bit out of the gates, I should say, to start the season offensively. But no, man, I think it's great. We only had 1 bye. I forget exactly when it came, but I know we were always bitching about it not being late enough because we were like dying when it came to November. But I love the bye for them, middle of October. As you approach the most important month in college football, which is November.
Yeah, I think that is perfect timing as well. November is definitely, Coach Meyer would say, that's when champions are won, is in November. So, getting that one right before November begins is perfect. This one, I mean, if I'm being picky, I would have liked it to be in 1 more week later. I'd rather them play Marshall this week than have the bye, then start Big Ten, because it just kind of, you shift your focus a little bit more. Obviously, you know how it is. When you get into conference play, the mentality shifts more because these games are a lot more meaningful because obviously the Big Ten championship is on the line and things like that. So guys tend to lock in more for conference play. And on top of that is raise the competition level. Like for the Buckeyes, obviously they're playing the MAC right now and then Marshall, whatever they are. But when you get to Big Ten, now the competition level is the same. These guys should be as talented as you. These guys are on scholarship and making a ton of money as well. So you want to get your mind shifted for that. And obviously, I would have loved for them to get an extra week of preparation to go into Michigan State. Not saying that Michigan State is some big-time threat or anything like that. I just, mentality-wise, I want you to be ready to shift. But maybe it's a blessing, to go out there. Hopefully next week when they play Marshall, they have another dominant performance and then they just continue to cruise. It is kind of funny that after having one of the best performances under Ryan Day, boom, you got to pause and take a break and then come back out there. So that kind of, you might lose momentum a little bit. I think Ryan Day is good enough of a coach to keep these guys locked in and, keep them going. I know when I was playing, our bye weeks we had like 4 practices. I think we practiced Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then after that Thursday practice, if you had class Friday, as soon as class was over on Fridays, guys was hitting the road, going home if you live close, stuff like that. So that's kind of how we handled our byes. And I thought it was perfect because it was, your body still was in football shape, even though you had 3 days off. it wasn't enough to make you completely fall out of football shape. So I think Ryan Day's probably going to do something similar to that. And yeah, these guys, like I say, it's hard after you're coming off of a great performance, but they're going to have to follow that up against Marshall for sure.
Yeah, no, they are. Marshall is in the Sun Belt, by the way. I had to I kind of
You
forgot
couldn't
too for a
remember either,
second
could
because,
you?
because I knew they were Conference USA for the longest time, and like way back in the day when they had like Leftwich and Pennington, like when the good old days, they were in the MAC for a little while too. So, yeah, they are in the Sun Belt with the Sun Belt realignment. We'll talk more about Marshall next week as we approach that game, but yeah, no, a nice little easy bye week for the Buckeyes this week. And the one thing you're trying to do, and you sort of touched on this in the open there, is like depth. Depth in the football team right now is what you're trying to create. You're playing some lesser opponents, so it's opportunities to get some younger guys in there. And then this bye week too is another week of practice. I mean, it's not like it's bowl practice or something like that, because you do have an opponent coming up here next week. But it's another opportunity for guys to get some reps in practice. And so those young guys that played late in the game against Western and against Akron, those guys can continue to get better. And yeah, remember, I mean, we've got so many new guys on this team, like transfers that have come in that are playing vital roles. These guys need to be able to go back and watch this tape and learn from it, because there's still probably some of these guys are still learning the offense, right, and learning some of the nuance that goes into it. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm excited about where the season has gone. I thought Ohio State played so much better this weekend, especially from the start of the game, because I think people against Akron thought Ohio State got off to this slow start, which they kind of did. But this was a much, much better, from start to finish with the foot on the gas.
Yeah, and I think another point that you made is, as far as the young guys go, I think that was the thing that a lot of people was hoping for in those first couple of games, is that we got to see, some of these young guys in there. Like Julian Sang. We finally got to see Julian Sang. This guy has been a guy that everybody's talked about in the spring, in the offseason, how good this freshman quarterback was going to be, and how he truly is challenging Devin Brown for that backup quarterback role. And to see him go in there, I know it was a short sample size, but he went in there and he threw a touchdown. I think he like a 55-yard touchdown pass or something like that. So it was nice to see him have some success and be like, wow, that's probably going to be, the future of the Buckeyes. Everybody speaks so highly of him. I remember I was in the locker room in the spring, and I guess he had made this crazy throw in practice, and Zach Harrison was back. He was, Zach Harrison played for Atlanta. He was back in the spring for some reason, and I was happy to be in the locker room, and they was like, "I'm telling you right now, Julian Sang." That's just the player. I'm telling you, that Julian Sang, he liked that. And I was sitting there laughing at it like, wow, that's because if the players start talking about it, like it's only a matter of time before anybody get a chance to see it. So it was nice to see that. And, a guy like James Peoples, James Peoples' story was interesting because obviously he was one of their highly recruited running backs. But when he came on, a lot of people thought he would be fourth on the depth chart behind Quinshawn Travion and Dallas Hayden. And as the spring's gone on, as spring ball went on, he started to climb. And I think that was a reason why Dallin Hayden decided to transfer to Colorado, because I think James People kind of outplayed him. And it's funny when you watch him in the game. He scored, I think, every game, both games. Like I said, granted, I know it's the MAC, but the fact that he's getting in there and he's finding success and he looks good. And it's just a lot of these young guys that I'm getting to see, him, Arvell Reese, Gabe Powers on defense, Caden McDonald's at defensive tackle. Like,
I was just saying, McDonald's a guy that definitely is kind of jumping out at me.
Yeah, like it's so many young guys. Like to me, it puts a smile on my face because yes, the Buckeyes should be dominant this year. Yes, they should win it all this year. But I'm also thinking about the future and the fact that I'm seeing the success from these guys and these guys coming in and understanding football. They're doing the right things. They're looking dominant against the MAC. Like, that's what I wanted to see. Like, we're not just good only this year. We should be good for quite some time with some of these young guys that's coming in and getting these reps.
Yeah, no, you're dead on with that, and I think it's a good point. The other thing that I just wanted to say too is, like, listening to the coaching staff this week and certainly after the game on Saturday, it's like there seems to be a focus this year that has been more so, I think, than years past. And I think that there's an understanding in that building of how much this season means and
Mhm.
how like locked in they have to be for the entire year. There's a very, small margin of error, room for error, if you will. And
Yeah.
Ohio State has that. You can afford to lose a game, even two games, and potentially go to the playoff this year. But I just think Ohio State and Urban, or not Urban, Ryan Day, excuse me, mentioned Urban earlier, but
Yeah.
Coach Day are just they're so locked in, man. They're not laughing after games or press conferences. They're like just I don't know, man. They seem very stoic and very locked into what they're doing.
I mean, yeah, I think you hit it on the head when you think about all the things that went into it, all the sacrifices people made. Guys came back, the money that the donors gave to get some of these guys in the transfer portal, and not having the success against the team up north that you've had in years. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is like it's like a last ride type thing. Like if y'all don't get it done, like it seems like to me it'd be major changes made at that program. You're gonna lose a bunch of guys from to the draft, and if you lose a coaching staff, like obviously that's going to change and shake things up as well. So it's nice that they understand they have a sense of urgency. They understand the importance of this season. And like I say, it's early, it's still 2 games, but for some odd reason, I just think this is kind of what we're going to see for the rest of the season. I'd be shocked because of what you have, the depth that you have, and all the players that you have, and the talent that you have. I'd be shocked if it is any kind of games that end up close. Now, don't get me wrong, when they get in the Big Ten, they'll be closer, but it shouldn't be a reason to me why, especially if you figured the run game out, there shouldn't be a reason why you struggle. Because obviously, worst case scenario, you'll be a passing team, and you could do that with the best of them. But that run game to me has still always been the one key factor. And to me, they figured it out against Western Michigan. Now I do need to see it against some Big Ten opponents. And if they do, there is no excuse. There's no excuse not to get it done. And speaking of excuses and getting it done, my next question for you is: who do you think, when you look at the Big Ten conference, who do you think is the biggest threat to Ohio State for the Big Ten championship?
I think it's pretty simply to this point,
Mhm.
just based off of what we've seen, like who's been like more impressive, and that's been USC.
Yeah.
Um, just because USC has won a top 25 matchup against LSU, really top 10 sort of matchup. I think I had LSU this past weekend. I was really impressed with that team. I think that they're going to have a chance to maybe, I'm not saying they're going to run the table, but I think that they can be a 10-2 type team at the end of the year,
Mhm.
something like that. But no, SC has been very impressive. The job that they've done, like I said, LSU, they dominated this past weekend against Utah State. That wasn't even like a big deal,
Yeah.
but I watched them. I watched them that game, some of that game, because it was like that Big 12 after dark, like late night deal
Like
on the
11
West Coast,
o'clock or
which
something like that.
yeah, it was crazy. I was watching it at like midnight. I felt like I'm like, why am I watching this USC and Utah State game? But nonetheless, it's a game that I watch because they're in the Big Ten now. And then Penn State is probably the second team that creates some problems. Them in Oregon.
Mhm.
Penn State did not look very impressive against Bowling Green. Bowling Green is a really good team. I predict will win the MAC this year with their offense and Connor Bazelak, their quarterback. But no, man, I'd say SC right now. Lincoln Riley and that offense is playing really well, and their defense all of a sudden,
Yeah.
fantastic. So
Yeah. I don't disagree with you at all. I think I got SC as the biggest threat as well. And it's so shocking because coming into the season, everybody was talking about Oregon. And
yeah,
Oregon, Oregon just has not looked great in their past 2 games. Now they're 2-0. Like they haven't
they
lost.
barely beat Boise State. I know Boise State's a
Yeah.
name in college football, but they were heavy. Oregon was heavy favorites in that game, and Boise was leading for most of it.
Yeah, and I had to win on a last second field goal or something like that.
Last second field goal, 25-yard field goal as time expired.
So to me, and they're dealing with the same thing I thought Ohio State was going to deal with for a while. Was they got a bunch of different transfer guys in there when it comes to the offensive line, obviously the quarterback and some of those wide receivers. I thought it would take some time, but man, it doesn't look as polished as it does. Now, don't get me wrong, they can win a lot of things back if they go when they play Ohio State. Obviously, that'll be their big test. And if they are able to, be in that game or, God forbid, win that game, then obviously we'll be singing a different tune here. But USC.
Hey, real quick though, I mean, not to totally derail your great comments there, but can we just have a conversation quickly about Texas beating Michigan?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Well, yeah, they beat that.
They beat the brakes off of Michigan.
Yeah.
And I know Texas is really good, and I've been super impressed with Quinn Ewers and that offense.
Mm-hmm.
This could be the year that they could be the team to beat too. I mean,
Yeah.
Ohio State could be playing Texas in the playoffs, and that would be an awesome matchup. But no, Michigan looked terrible in this game. They couldn't stop Texas on third down at all. Their defense just got absolutely ran through. And Texas did whatever the hell they wanted to, and then Michigan's offense couldn't produce anything.
Yeah,
I thought their quarterback play was just atrocious.
I mean, it's been that. The thing is, they got lucky when they had what's the quarterback from last year? What's his name?
McCarthy.
Yeah, when they had JJ McCarthy, like that was just they lucked up on something. That was the one thing that they hadn't had in quite some time, and obviously he did a really good job of. He didn't do a lot, but he did enough, and that was the thing. That offensive line was great coming into this season. I thought, okay, Sharon Moore is still there. He used to be the offensive line coach. One thing that he's going to pride himself is still having a good offensive line. Donovan Edwards is still there. They still get some things done. Obviously, they're not going to ask their quarterback to do too much. And to me, that offensive line is not what there used to be at all. I know you got some transfer guys in there. You got a lot of young guys in there that don't have a lot of starts, but it just y'all don't get no push. Y'all don't open no lanes or anything. And, Donovan Edwards looks terrible right now. And these teams are getting up so quick on them that they're forcing the game to become a passing attack. And outside of Colston Loveland, there's nobody there to fear. They have nobody on offense that you should fear, that you don't feel that you could go one-on-one and stop by yourself. So to me, that's kind of been the recipe. They got to figure some things out. If not, they might lose.
Yeah, they're going to be in trouble, man.
Because they got a tough schedule.
No, I mean they could lose 5 games, dude.
It's funny to see the demise because it's wow. But I agree with you though. I think Texas, obviously Georgia's Georgia, but Texas has been impressive. And Quinn Ewers, who should still be a Buckeye, but whatever. Quinn Ewers has looked really good too. I mean, he's got to be one of the favorites to win the Heisman. I mean, he lost both of his wide receivers, and yet this man's still slinging the thing around and still getting guys open. And the thing is, it was funny because I think all Buckeye fans were rooting for Texas and Quinn because Quinn went in Ann Arbor and got it done, which is something that we haven't done. I mean, he ended, I think there was on a 25-game win streak. He snapped it easily. It was nothing to him. So, yeah, that right there, Texas is a team that's going to be very interesting down the stretch. Don't get me wrong, they're in the SEC, and the SEC is a gauntlet, and they're going to get some games where they're going to get challenged as well. But if they come out on top, man, Texas versus OSU or Texas or Ohio State versus Georgia, it's gonna be a heavyweight fight, but I still do think the Buckeyes have too much talent to not be able to get that done.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. What do we have? One other topic we got to touch on, Tyvis, before we get out of here.
It was the biggest threat to the
biggest threat, Big Ten, biggest. Overall, what do you think about overall? Right, this point in the season, I made this comment over the weekend. It's really been tough, man, to look at college football this year and to know who's good. Who's really good.
Dustin,
it's so difficult because you look at these teams. I looked at, here's a good example, right? Auburn's playing Cal. Auburn's at home. They're 12-point favorites. They lost. And Cal comes in and their defense has 2 turnovers. They had I think a pick 6 early in the game, but they win 21-14 on the road. And it's I thought Auburn was supposed to be good. Well, okay. I mean, Alabama is on the ropes against South Florida in the 4th quarter. They scored some late touchdowns to make it a closer game. I mean, a bigger deciding victory, but I don't know how good they are. There's other. I mean, Notre Dame loses to NIU. Come on, dude. NIU is a great program, but they should never beat Notre Dame on the road. I mean, that just should never happen. And I love the Huskies and the program, and I know Thomas Hammock, like I'm happy for them, but that shouldn't happen, man. So my point in saying that is I don't think we know how good these teams are right now. We don't know how these teams are meshing in the chemistry because you've got all these transfers that are coming in that it's going to take some time. And so for week 1 and week 2, I wish we just got rid of the numbers next to the team, which is the AP and coaches rankings and things like that, because those rankings are bullshit. They don't mean anything right now.
Yeah, the only ones that matter is the ones in November when the CFP officially starts dropping theirs. But I made this statement yesterday. I was doing a hit section in Columbus radio. I was like, there's only 3 teams right now in college football that I feel can win it all. 3. It's only 3. Texas, Georgia, OSU. That's it. You can make the case for Ole Miss, but we'll see. But those 3 right there, to me, I feel like one of those 3 will host the trophy. And it's hard to prove that wrong right now just off of the play, the way that those 3 teams have dominated. Obviously, out of those 3, Texas got the most impressive win, we think, because obviously they played a quote-unquote top 10 opponent in the Wolverines, which we'll see where they end up at the end of this whole thing. But yeah, those 3 teams to me is them, and then it's everybody else.
So give me the 3 one more time.
Georgia, Texas, OSU.
All right, so I got to throw another team in there that I've been super impressed with that I think people will start talking more about as we get into, like, I think in 2 weeks when Tennessee goes to Oklahoma and wins that game, people are going to start talking about Tennessee football. And
I do like their quarterback. Nico is
Nico Iamaleava. Iamaleava. I had their spring game, so I had to say it like 100 times. Nico Iamaleava. Most people just say Nico. It's fine too, because this team.
I like the names because I like to pronounce those names.
Well, I mean, I just got to say, Josh Heupel has developed a team in Knoxville that is going to compete for a title this year. There's no doubt in my mind.
It's just something about Tennessee, man. I don't know what it is. I just don't believe in them. I just don't. And it's not that they ever did anything. It's the fact that they let me down a couple of times, and it's just like I would have to see it. To me,
this is a different deal this year with this team. I'm just telling you right now, like in about a month, not even a month. I think at the end of this month, they're going to go to Oklahoma 7:30 on ABC in 2 weeks, and they're going to beat them. And I think they're going to beat them convincingly. They're a slight underdog in that game. I think they're going to go take care of business, and people will be talking about them. But this is an Ohio State podcast, so I'm not going to talk much about the SEC. Even though I was just in the SEC last week, and I'm going to be there again in a couple weeks.
We'll know about Tennessee when they play Alabama, October 19th. That's when, and then they got to play Georgia. So like that, they got some games.
I think Alabama's going to take a step back this year with Kalen DeVore. I do. I don't see it. I don't see them. I see them like being a 9 to 10 win team. I just don't see them being a team that wins the SEC again.
Well, they're not going to win the SEC because Georgia is, but that But from what I'm hearing from you, you're telling me it's going to be Georgia versus Tennessee.
I love that matchup. I think that
not LSU.
I mean, LSU's got 1 loss already, so they got a tough schedule, but I think that they can do it. I wouldn't predict they're going to do it. I wouldn't predict it.
Okay. Tennessee versus Georgia. Y'all heard it here first. Ohio State versus who in the Big Ten championship? USC, we say?
Yeah, sure. Sure. Here, how about a dark horse in Nebraska? Dylan Raiola, man. That guy's like a poor man's Pat Mahomes, man.
He's great. Don't get me wrong. He's great. He's great. I think that he's going to be special in the Big Ten. I don't think that they're there yet. Like I think that they're going to win a lot more games this year, but I wouldn't put them as Big Ten champion contenders. Like I don't view them there because yes, the Colorado win was great, but like, how good is Colorado's line? Like that's been the thing with them. Their trench play hasn't been great. So we'll see. I think if I had to pick a dark horse in the Big Ten, I tell you what, I would love I'm not picking them to be a dark horse because they're not going to be like in the Big Ten championship, but I am interested to see Purdue versus Notre Dame. If Purdue beats Notre Dame, first of all, Marcus Freeman's in trouble. But second of all,
yeah, no kidding.
Second of all, that would be like a huge program win for Purdue, and that'll probably give them a ton of confidence. So, yeah, that's a matchup that I'm looking at this weekend. But that's enough time. We spent a lot of time talking about this.
Yes, we did.
It was great catching up with you again. Obviously, folks,
Likewise,
enjoy y'all Buckeye bye week. Watch some more football. Watch some other teams around the country. Let us know who y'all think is the biggest threats to the Big Ten championship and overall the championship, the national championship. And we'll catch y'all next week. Peace.